In the name of God, holy and undivided Trinity.
Amen.
Jane and I have a very important person in our life. We've known him for 20 years. His name is Scott Gochin. Any of you know Scott Gochin? Hard to believe you would. His office is based in Farmington, Connecticut. He's our accountant. He's been working with us since before his son was born. His son is now at Roger Williams University. And we've been tracking each other over the years in ways formal and informal. But formally, he's of course poised in support of sort of a cultural predisposition to help make our taxes as little as possible. Any of you into having your taxes be as low as possible? It is something that we culturally sort of tend to do. And if you can get your tax down to zero, well, woohoo! And get a big refund in tax time, that's a great thing too. But I've had some sort of argument about this predisposition that we have in our culture about taxes. And not only because I see this deficit that's ballooning, but I know that my heart has been touched by some of the things that can happen through state and federal government programs that wouldn't be possible otherwise. I don't think most of you know that my older sister, born 4 years before I was born with profound mental disabilities. And so she's been in institutional care for 60 years, which would never have been possible if my family needed to afford that. She has been cared for in every way, physically, emotionally, recreationally, through the support of the federal and state government. She first was in a large institution that was supported by the state of Connecticut called Southbury Training School, and she's now in a beautiful group home in Waterbury, Connecticut that's supported through Oak Hill, which is an organization that supports these programs. So it touches my heart, it's touched my family's life, that programs were available through tax dollars that otherwise, I don't know what would have happened for my sister if that couldn't be the case. So I have this respect. In fact, Jane and I sometimes will just turn to each other as we travel over a road and say, wow, look at what our taxes make possible. I mean, it's like incredible that you can drive anywhere you want. And who laid the asphalt? It was the public expense. It's like, wow. So I get that rendering to Caesar the things that are Caesar's is something that I'm not opposed to. I feel like we need to find a way of doing that, even though you and I have a lot of reasons that we can find for denying the government its fair due, because, oh, there's waste, and there's corruption, and there's this, and there's that, and all that's real. I get that. But it's human institutions. You're never going to get away from that. And the good that can be done through government, in spite of the things that government does that we do not like, the good that can be done is real. And advocating for people who can't advocate for themselves and making sure there are resources there through governments so that that can be done is a great thing. And that takes tax dollars. So render to Caesar things that are Caesar's, yeah, okay. That's my pitch. But then render to God the things that are God's. Well, what about that? Well, that does have to do with the heart quality too. In fact, perhaps even more so. Because when your heart is touched by what God is doing in your life and through your life, what happens to your money just follows with it. It's sort of like a flow. It's like an easy thing to release your resources in the direction of where your heart can see God moving. And so you've gotten that here at St. A's because the people of St. A's have historically been a very generous group of people. You set, in terms of statistics, you're like a leading, per capita giving community in the Diocese of Rhode Island. Now, Diocese of Rhode Island, nationwide, is one of the poorest givers in the Episcopal Church. But you lead the way in Rhode Island in terms of giving. And it sets a mark for others to aspire to. But it also is a symptom of the generous way you respond to God's touch. You know, that something is happening in your hearts and lives that frees you to give. And that makes possible all the good work that happens here at St. A's. And it's important to underline that right now because you're going into your pledge season. And did you notice that if this gospel appears, it always comes at pledge season? It's like, okay, somebody thought that out. But that you're going to be getting a letter. Dave Terry is someone who being held in our intentions and in our hearts as someone who needs our support right now. He's always been the person supporting us in doing our pledge drive. And so Dwight has taken that on and is composing a letter with support from Dick Hathaway. But you'll be getting that in the mail soon. And it's important that you feel into your heart as well as look into your checkbook to sort of know, you know, how is it that I want to give this year? And what is it that is meaningful for me in terms of what happens through St. A's that is an expression of the love of God that I resonate with? That's something that's in tune with my life and how I understand God to be touching my life and touching the world in ways that are meaningful for me through St. A's. So tune into that as you consider how to fill out your pledge card. And tune into that as you come to the parish meeting next week. Because when you all gather at 9 o'clock on Saturday, and after the 9 o'clock service on Sunday, one service next week, 9 o'clock, you're going to be asked to grapple with what are the assets that St. A's has in its hands, you know, the collective. And how is that being expressed for good purpose at the University of Rhode Island, among one another, in the communities that we serve? And what does it mean to set our sights beyond the time when Jan and Dave will be here with us? So Jan and I, and knowing that our retirement was coming, sort of alerted the Bishops' Committee to that early on, because making this transition is going to require some thought and prayer and planning. And thanks to Rich Yunkin and Patty Steer, you're developing a strategic plan. Thanks to Leon Sibilski, you have a consultant who's working with you to help sort of clarify your mission and your direction. And Jan and I are purposefully, and our spouses are purposely staying away from the parish meeting next week. We won't be there, so that Leon, Patty, and Rich can hear from you what has really registered with you over these last 5 years. What's registered with you as a strength in terms of what's come through our leadership, and what is it that you feel like's been missing? Because certainly things have been missing. Because we're just human beings, and we have our own ideas of how things should, you know, we bring our impression, we bring our image to bear on you as a community and on the ministry that's been developed on campus. And what is it that's caught your attention, caught your commitment, and you're saying, yeah, after they're gone, we want this direction to continue. This is what we want to be doing. This is the sort of leadership we're going to need when they're gone. These are the sort of resources we'll need to develop. These are the sort of things we have to keep going. These are the new things we need to bring together. All of that needs to be in your hands. And now, as you develop your direction. And so talking honestly and openly, we felt would be encouraged by having Jan and I, Anne and Jane out of the picture next weekend. So you can just talk about what really is important to you. And what it is that you feel like has been established, that you're wrapping your arms around, and what it is that you're not so sure about being able to sustain. So, touch into your hearts and lives. Assess your energies. Assess what's going on for you. What's really feeding you and gotten you so excited, and what is it that you're sort of feeling a little drained about? Just be honest. I remember Jane and I, early in my ministry, we were in a little church in Milton, Connecticut. If you haven't heard of Scott Gochin, you certainly haven't heard of Milton, Connecticut. Well, maybe you have, but anyway, it's a little enclave in Litchfield, Connecticut, in the northwest corner. And we served there for about 5 years, I think. And I got ready to leave, and I was like reflecting on all that we had done and changing the worship setting. We rearranged furniture, and everybody seemed to really like it. We sort of put things in circles, and we've done this and that, and it's like, wow, this is great, it's great. I left. 2 Sundays later, all the furniture was right back where I'd seen it 5 years before I came. So I don't have, it was like, okay, I get it. You know, I may have an idea about what's been established, but that's just my idea. You're the ones who know. You know what's important to you. You know what it is that you're being called to do. And you've been gracious to allow Jan and to allow me to express ourselves in ways that are natural to us, but you need now to discover what really reflects who we are as being what's important for us as we go forward. And hopefully there are things that you're going to want to keep that we've introduced, but you need to know why you're doing what you're doing. And to really render unto God the things that are God's. To tune in and know you're doing it because you're called to. Not because of Dave, Jan, Ann, Jane. It's about God and what God's doing in your midst. So I know we all honor, the 4 of us, what's been transpiring in the midst of you as being an expression of love. An expression of generosity to the community and to who we are by giving us space to be who we are among you. And that's been lovely. But a time's coming, it's not immediate, it's in another year plus, when we're going to be retiring out of the scene. So then what is it that you want to be about? And who do you want to have here with you to take you the next steps? That's an important thing to grapple with. So even if you're not used to speaking up, next week come to the parish meeting and let your voice be registered, because you're going to inherit something of the direction that's set next week. It's going to be yours. So come and shape it. And I know that it'll be a generous response. So that's it. Amen.
Amen.